We're here in Delta, BC, before the start of the first race in BC Super Week, talking with Mark Ernsting, race director for the series, and also the principal behind the M1 Pro Cycling project. And that's what we want to talk to you about today, Mark. Can you give us basically a brief idea, what is M1? What's the idea here?
So M1 Sports Management is the apparent company that I run and oversee, and so I felt that there was a time in the sport now and within Canada to put an initiative together and bring the country together to develop a high-performance professional cycling platform. And what that'll entail is a continental team that we hope to be able to begin either for 2015 or 16, depending on how the discussions will move forward over the next couple of weeks and months, and continue that platform forever so that it becomes a feeder system for the World Tour team in 2018 to 2020. So what we're trying to do is give ourselves a couple of years to help develop the athletes so that they start getting to the level that they have to be able to perform at the highest level in the sport, and then be able to provide the platform for a World Tour team for the future.
So the goal is eventually to have a World Tour team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whether it's Pro Continental or World Tour, we're having the discussion around the wording of World Tour because it keeps it simple for everybody to understand that we want to have, Canada's largest team and be able to perform at the highest races in the world.
Now, is this a men's program, or will you be doing a women's program as well?
Good point on that. So from when we start on the Continental side, we'll probably have 1 year where we have a men's program, but that'll carry over right away into a women's professional cycling team, and then have that World Tour platform. So in the end, we do have all three categories as well.
Now, I mean, Canada has had at least a couple of very strong programs that have delivered a lot of the top riders today into that level. So I'm talking about Symmetrics, and then Steve Bauer's SpiderTech program. Are you sort of looking at emulating some of the stuff that they did in the past?
Yeah, we saw that the results that they were able to attain after they had those programs in place for several years provided a lot of good results for future on for the athletes that are now at the World Tour level. And so we see that if the right foundation and programs are in place, that allows our athletes then to succeed at the world level. So I have spoken to a lot of the individuals like Steve and some other individuals that have been part of those platforms before, and have invited them to be part of this project. Everybody in Canada that has a stake in the sport has been contacted to some degree and said, look, we want to bring everybody together. Rather than trying to have a few different people in the country working on various projects, we just wanted to get everybody under one platform and be able to then build a business structure around this team so that it really becomes sustainable in the future.
I guess that's one of the questions I have. I mean, a Pro Continental team, I mean, there's Steve Bauer did it, and there's been some successful U.S. ones, but the World Tour level is a much greater investment. And I mean, for a sponsor, is there really a value proposition since the majority of that racing is not in North America?
Well, that's why our discussions right now for the Continental team are looking at Canadian companies that do have a U.S. presence, because we want to be able to show that business tie for the North American reach. As we're doing the discussions for the bigger teams that are going into the U.S. markets, we are talking to companies that have that global presence. So it's not just a provincial or a national-based company. These companies have a global presence that see the connection of having that. Well, going Pro Continental is probably, or where I think UCI is going to call Tier 2 down the road, is the direction that we will end up probably going. But from a media standpoint and having a discussion point, what we're trying to just say is we want to have the largest team that Canada has, and being able to have all the top Canadian riders under that umbrella to be able to perform at that level. So strategically, financially, the Pro Continental level is definitely the direction that we'll be most likely going towards, unless we find that financial partner that does see the value of definitely going World Tour and having those guarantees of being able to go into the biggest races.
And financial partners, I mean, obviously this is early days, you've really started the project, but how is it looking at this point? Are there any financial partners that have signed up or are looking promising?
Yeah, so we are very early in the discussion phases, and as you can appreciate, the kind of ask that we're asking for in order to accomplish the financial goals that we have to attain to have it all work properly are not conversations that we can just close a deal on in the last sort of 3 or 4 months of officially going public of this platform that we want to do. And that's why we've also given ourselves the 4 or 5 years to have those big discussions for the big World Tour teams, because some of these conversations are going to take a year or two to really mature to the level where we know that we have that confidence in that company to be able to say we're going to move forward with them as that title or the backer for this type of a project. But we've had a very positive response from the Canadian public, and also a few companies already that have reached out to us just from going public with the project and in that announcement. And that was really the basis around it, because initially it's not my style to necessarily go public and say, hey, these are the things that we want to do. I normally a lot of times would rather do the background work ahead of time and then say, hey, we're in the position to be able to do this. But what I wanted to do is rally the country around this project and bring all the influential people that we can to helping us be as successful as we possibly can at it. And that was the reasoning behind going public with it and saying this is what we want to do, so that now, as we were getting phone calls already, people are starting to see this, which we may not have had that chance of knowing that they were interested, before.
And finally, riders. I mean, there's a lot of very good Canadian riders. Right now they're scattered around many teams. Do you feel you're going to be able to bring some of those top riders back to a team, or is it going to be probably more a matter of developing riders?
Yeah, no, what we'll look at is I think with the right financial background, we're going to be able to attain the riders that acquire a certain income for their salary status that they already have on other teams. So what we'd be looking at initially is that continental step and then to the World Tour step. We don't have the depth right now in the volume of athletes, let's say, to fulfill the full World Tour level of team, where if we do in the next 4 or 5 years have that step of being able to grow those athletes that are currently, let's say, 19, 20, 21 and successful in the sport, so that by the time they're 24, 25, 26, they can start making those bigger jumps. Those are the athletes that we're looking at attaining initially. And then if we find the financial backing, if there are people out there that are willing to help us fund this project, those are the conversations that we can have further with the guys right now that are already at the higher level, at the continental level. And I think speaking with a lot of the athletes, they'd love to have a Canadian program again, be all back together again, being racing for each other. You can see that passion in the athletes, and that's really what I'd love to accomplish one day, is just being on the line and having the majority of the team, the Canadian athletes.
So you have been talking with some riders already then, and do you think you'll be able to have the team running by next year, or is it the year after?
No, I think at the level that we wanted from the continental level, it's probably more realistic as a 2016 level. 2015, I believe that we can get going in the sense of acquiring the first year espoirs and the people that need to still get that initial step to take that first real step into the Americas type of a system and be able to get to a lot of the bigger projects in North America. The higher profile current Canadian athletes that are already right now on the continental programs, I think that's going to be a little bit of a harder ask unless we have a financial backer, of course, that comes to us in the next month and says, no, you know what, we understand what you're trying to accomplish. Lay out the salaries that you think that these riders are going to want to attain, and then I can have those positive discussions with those athletes for sure immediately, and I think I'd be able to retain quite a few of them.
Okay, well, thank you, and we'll keep in touch as this develops.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you, being able to spread the word and being out at these events here and promoting everything that we're doing for cycling.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.